welcome to another amazing segment of the Black Girl Encourage Her. I am your host, Shaniqua Inspires, and I got another gem that I am delighted to introduce to you all. So I'm going to go ahead and bring her up to the stage. Come on up, come on up. Hey, Desiree, how are
Hi,
you?
I'm good. Thank you for having me.
You are so welcome. Listen, now I know a little bit about you.
Mhm.
Please introduce yourself to the people.
Well, I'm Desirie Sykes. I am the founder of NessCares and Ness Behavior Consulting. So NessCares is a nonprofit, and our goal is to pretty much provide resources for people who are looking for special education resources, mental health resources. And one of those resources also happens to be my for-profit, which is Ness Behavior Consulting. And we provide services for children who have a primary diagnosis of autism or
Mm.
children who have behavioral challenges that are impeding on their ability to learn. So so that's what I'm doing. Like it's a lot going on under that umbrella. But outside of that, I am a mom. I am a friend. I'm a wife. Like I wear many hats. So that's who I
Yes.
am.
Listen, well, my audience, they wear many hats as well. So they can
Mhm.
totally relate. They can say, girl, that's right. That's right. We
Right.
understand. So, all us multi hat wearers, we totally
Mhm.
understand that you do have a lot going on.
Yep.
But why? Why
Why?
are you taking on so much? That's always the
Okay.
question people want to know, like, why? Why do you have to have a nonprofit and a for-profit? Why
Right.
do you have to do this? Why do you have to do that? What would you say your why is?
I love that you like to just jump right in. so, so what's my why? So here's the story. 5 years ago, it was 2018. I was with child, and it was just a really horrible time in my life at that time.
Mm,
I
okay.
really just wanted to like give up. So I was in a position where I became the therapist who needed a therapist. And I found
Mm,
that in that experience that there are so many platforms, like so many institutions, so many resources that are put in place to help people, and they really don't care. So in that experience for me, what it really gave me was purpose. One, that I made it out of that experience. And I'm speaking over it, but realistically, it was like one of the most horrible times in my life where I just didn't want to be here anymore. I
mm,
was speaking out to people, and I felt like I wasn't being heard. I experienced the not being advocated for correctly. Um,
mm.
and I coming out of that, I knew that, like, God spoke to me. He told me that when he does get me out of this, that he would be the reason why, that I would get
Mm,
out because he would have to claim his glory. And
yes.
it was a real big turning point in my life. So when I created NessCares, we were also in a pandemic, right? So
Mm,
2018 happened. I had this vision. 2019, 2020, the COVID pandemic happened. And I believe that in the pandemic, it further heightened mental health, right? The need for resources in mental health. We started to see people who never thought about going to a therapist come to crossroads of needing therapy. We
yeah.
saw a system that was put in place for so many years, whether it's mental health or special education, and it's running and operating as a business. But then when people were really in need, we couldn't produce. We couldn't produce what the people needed. And that was a problem for a lot of
Yeah.
people. So I think that at that time, I was starting out with this nonprofit and this for-profit business, and businesses were failing. But because of my focus, mental health and special education, it just became more realistic to me. Like there was such a clear pathway, a clear lane for what I was wanted to do. And that further spoke to what my purpose is. So,
Yeah.
just with that being said, I know that when I leave this earth, I want my time here to be of something. So we all have an end date, right?
Yeah.
But do here with our time is so important. So when I'm gone, this legacy will still live, right? What God gave
Absolutely.
me will still live for a next generation, for somebody else. So what God put inside of me is a seed for somebody else. So that's my why. That's my why.
And that's exactly what they always say. I guess it's one of those things that they say to comfort us, is that
Right,
oftentimes we go through things not just for ourselves, but
right,
for the people who we are called to help. Now, you mentioned to us that you had your own mental health saga, your
right.
challenges. What do you think that that preparation was for? Like, why do you think you,
Hmm.
of all people, the therapist, oh my gosh, the
Right.
therapist needed a therapist? Why do you think that happened to you, of all people?
I can't answer that question, but what I do know is that I learned a lot about myself. I
Yeah,
learned that there are high functioning people who struggle with depression, and that was
come
me.
on now.
Um,
Mhm,
to the world, I always had an answer, like to those, whether it was in my workplace or, from the outside looking in, I always had or always have a problem, a answer to somebody else's problem.
mhm.
So, um, I think that's just how it's very interesting to me because no one would know. Like if I was when I share my story, and I have shared my story, I actually wrote it down in a book. And I
Yeah,
think when I shared it with my family, it was like, wow, like this happened to you, and this is what you're doing. But why me is because why not me, right? To use someone who you think has got it going on,
yeah.
who, she's always got the answers, and this
Mhm,
devastating thing happened to her, and look how
mhm.
she overcame, and how
Yes,
she's given back. And it's still a struggle for me. Like every day is I believe that when you're battling with depression, every day is a choice that you make, that I'm going to do this to create the lifestyle that I want. It's really true when they say a changed mind is a changed life. And I
yes.
and I take that with me every day. So that's why. That's the only answer I
Mm,
could find. Sometimes I still ask God, like, why me? Why do I have to go through this? But I do
exactly.
know it's for something that's much bigger than me. And
It
I
is.
and I accept that. I take accountability for the charge. So
I love it. I love it. And, God gives those challenges, to those that He knows will be able to rise, those that He
right.
knows will be able to soar. So you definitely are a living testimony to that,
Yes.
to say that you've been handed a heck of a hand, right? Especially with your clinical background and your training. People do look at you as if this will never touch you,
Right.
right? Like, because you deal with people who have depression and anxiety and things of that nature, they think it will never touch you. Like they think, me as a nurse, like, oh, like I'm supposed to live this healthiest life. And sometimes you spend all of your time, your effort, and your energy helping other people,
Right.
you start to neglect yourself.
Mhm.
Right? So we're not above anything. And when you mentioned that about high
Mhm.
functioning people, that listen, that resonated inside of me, because I think there are many high functioning individuals
In
who
high
suffer.
position
Yeah,
who are suffering.
exactly. They're sitting at the top, at the top floor, at the highest office, like they're in these high positions,
Mhm.
and they too
Sometimes
suffer.
I'm so sorry to cut you off, but
Go
you
ahead.
really just triggered something inside of me when you said that. I remember one time even speaking to a pastor, and
Mhm,
sharing my story, and the pastor telling me how shame he felt to come to terms that he as a pastor was battling with mental health issues,
mhm, mhm.
because a pastor, when you think about a pastor and leadership, if
Yeah,
the leader is not okay, everything is falling apart. So where does the pastor go to
yeah,
when they're struggling? So, and just to get a little bit more deeper, like really, and that's why I believe that we can't be ashamed no matter what position we are, what our titles are, at the end of the day, we are literally human beings, and we are a service to people, servicing to each other, and not to be ashamed to talk about the things that we're going through and how we've overcome them. So
Absolutely.
it's a big deal. It's a big deal.
So encourage us a little bit. Tell
Yeah.
us, where does a strong, super bad, got it all together, got all the answers, where does a sister who's this high achiever, this high functioning being, where does she go when she
Mm,
needs help?
I get on my knees and I pray. That's one.
Mhm, mhm,
So and I think a lot of my journey, well, I know a lot of my journey is realizing that how what it is that I contribute to problems. I think a lot, especially for 2024, it really has been sitting on my spirit. A lot of times when it's a new year, we want to talk about who we're cutting off for the new year,
yeah.
what we're letting go of, all these exterior things. And I think turning point for me was realizing I was the problem, right?
Ooh.
Taking accountability for the, like, it's not your responsibility to deal with what triggers me, right? Like, although I may be very valid in my triggers, I needed to learn ways to cope with the things that hurt me in the past so
Mhm.
that the people in the future are not responsible for how I respond to those things. And that's a
Yeah,
hard thing to do. It's a hard thing to be on the side of really, truly being hurt, and
yeah,
feeling that you're not being received and accepting accountability for learning how to manage those emotions, right?
yeah,
Even from the people who hurt you. So,
yeah.
a lot for me, and I
Mhm.
think when I got to a place where I understood that, I accepted that, and I was able to show grace to people who maybe wasn't worthy of grace, really. I
Mhm.
got to say, you have to learn to love the unlovable, and it sounds nice, but when you're in a space where I really had to love people who was so unlovable, not
Mhm.
because they deserved it, but because I needed to, and I
Yeah.
needed it. I needed to be, one, an example, and two, it was literally the key to healing for me. So yeah.
I love it. I love a changed mind.
Yes.
People don't realize how far they can go as soon as they start shifting their mindset. It's like the doors start to unlock, and
Mhm.
such greatness comes for yourself. Like when
Right.
you start letting go of that old way of thinking and you start, just transition. It's almost like a butterfly as they
Yes.
start to come outside of the cocoon. You have to be willing to look different, sound different, be different. You have to be willing to do that. So I love the lesson that you learned. Now, what
Mhm.
are some things that we can do on a daily basis? And let's talk specifically about what it is that you do, because you stay busy. You stay
Yes.
busy with the family, the kids, the
Mhm.
jobs, the businesses, not even the jobs,
Mhm.
the businesses, because you're working and you're putting in these hours and you're still serving the community. How do you keep your mental health healthy?
Tech. Well, I think everyone should have a therapist.
Yes.
Therapy for me has been really good, and sometimes it gets so good you think you don't need to go back, but
Hmm.
stick with it, and utilize therapy as just a way to explore who you are. Like, I am changed. I know that I am changing. I am not the same person that I was last year. Therapy has really helped me to look at myself differently, identify the things that I want. We talk about boundaries all the time, but and everybody talks about these are my boundaries, but really, what are your boundaries, right?
Hmm.
And how does that look, and how does it feel? And executing them is really, really important, and it begins to really shift your atmosphere and change some of the things that you feed yourself. That's
Hmm.
one big thing. The other is a routine. So I'm really, really big on a organized schedule. Like, I have to get up early in the morning and just reserve time for myself, just to get myself together. Then I'm taking care of the kids, and I get the kids on the schedule. Then it's work. And when do you stop working? So when do you stop working to then engage in, activities again with the kids and making sure that they're whole and that they are full. Because I also believe, as a working mom, what I've learned is that yes, we're working for our children. We're working to leave a legacy and leave all these things behind for them. And wholeheartedly, we believe in what we're doing, but in the process, we can neglect our kids, what, their experiences, us being women entrepreneurs, or just being having a high level position in any job that you're working. Your kids are in that journey with you. And I
Mhm.
know growing up that I felt abandoned and I felt neglected because my parents were so ambitious. And I
Mm.
didn't understand it then. I didn't understand what they were doing. I just knew they wasn't with me. And
Wow.
the older I got, and I stepped into that same those same footsteps of entrepreneurship,
Yeah.
and I believe that I received all of their ambition. I find myself dealing with the same things, but now I have a new lens. I know what it felt like as a child not having mommy and daddy, right? And now I understand the child's perspective, and I understand my parents' perspective as well now that I'm in it. So it's really interesting because a lot of what I went through in my childhood spilled over into my adulthood, which is why I needed therapy. And now here
Mhm.
I am in a position where God has given me so much to do, and so much purpose. And I too now have to look back and show grace to my parents, right? Forgive them
Mhm.
and
Yes.
take what they did and make it better. So
Yes.
it's so interesting. That's why you never be too quick to judge another
Yeah.
individual. You always have to give grace and be
Absolutely.
understanding, even when it's hard to understand, because you never know
Yes.
that what someone is dealing with and why they have made decisions based off of the things that they were presented with. So we have to be graceful
Absolutely.
with ourselves
I
and with
love
each
that.
other.
I
Yes.
love that. And you triggered something in me.
Mhm.
Just a few weeks ago, I remember making a comment to say that this mantle is heavy,
Right.
right? The mantle is heavy. People
Heavy is
don't
the
understand the
crown.
weight of the assignment, you know.
Yes. Mhm.
The work that we do, the
Mhm.
calling that we have, they don't understand the weight of it because we go around and we're still doing this. We managed to make it
Right.
to the
It
social
looks
events.
good.
We got a smile on our face. We look good on social media, and people think it's easy being
Mhm.
us. They think it's easy doing what we do. They're often envious. Oh, look
Right.
at her. She's got a house. Look at her. She's got a business. Look at her. She's got this. She's got that. But they don't realize the weight.
Right.
They don't
Everybody
realize
wants
the
the
weight.
glory. Everybody
Yes,
wants the glory. Seriously, it looks
yes,
good, you
yes.
know?
But the story, like, but can you handle the story? Can
Right.
you handle going through what we've had to go through? And everybody's story is unique.
Right.
Now, you just so happened to pen a part of
Mhm.
your story in a book. Tell us about this book.
So this book is called Who Do You Think You Are? And
Mm,
at the time, I really didn't know what I was doing when I wrote the book. I just knew that writing was my therapy. I
yes.
remember coming out of a friendship, actually, a very long friendship with a childhood friend. And in an argument, she asked me, "Who do you think you are?" Like, and I
Mm,
was taken back by that because well, one, the way she said it was, we were arguing, it was rude. But the second thing, my second notion was, who am I? Like I really asked
mm,
myself that, like, who do I think I am? Like,
yeah.
and I had to really begin to look at myself, not from, again, we're so quick to say, I'm going to cut this person off and this person did this and that. But I put myself in a position to look at myself and really ask myself, who are you? And I didn't have an answer.
Mm,
So, because I didn't have an answer, I wanted to further analyze myself to just see how I was operating in every situation of my life and how I could be better for me. And that then thus came the book. So what I
Yes.
was doing, what did I do in that journey, right? Like what I wanted to do was I wanted to create this picture of who I wanted to be and what I needed to do to get there. And I wrote
Mhm.
that down. So it's a workbook, and it's also a motivational workbook that I think can be applied to everyone. Even though I'm sharing my story, you can use it as a tool as well, because the idea of who you want to be is in your mind. I'm just helping you pull that out. So,
Yeah.
and by sharing my story at the same time. So, and I think that it's really important to get personal. You know, we
Yes.
have a lot of people talking about, mental health and struggles, but really getting down to the nitty gritty and getting personable and not being afraid to be vulnerable, I think is so important. And sometimes it's hard to be vulnerable. Like the first page of the book, I'm telling all my business,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
So, but I found peace in my vulnerability. I
Mm.
found peace in my vulnerability because I believe that everything that I'm going through, everything that I've been through is not for me, you know? I believe that. And I'm just a vessel, and I am God's tool. And uh, that's where I am with that.
I love it. I love
Listen
it.
to Cicely Sunday's podcast on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, and more. New episodes start in December.
So tell us, Miss Desiree,
Yes.
who do you think you are? Who
So
are you?
I am it, honey. That's who I am.
Yes.
So I
All
am it.
caps.
Okay, I'm a boss.
Yes.
And you know
Yes.
what? It's so important because as I became okay, so let's take it back. I first and foremost, I'm a mother, and
Yeah.
I'm a good mom. And it took me a
Yes.
long time to be able to say that. And
Come on now.
it took me a long time to be able to say that. And I had to really get into a place where really questioning yourself is really important, analyzing yourself and the things that you do. And I had to come to a place of gratefulness and thankfulness to be able to see. Like a lot of times I ask God, give me eyes that can see, give me ears that can hear. And sometimes you start to see things that you don't like, and then you get upset. But I'm thankful because that's answered prayer. I was able to see, okay, this is where you're flawed. Your children are
Mm.
struggling here. And then I was able to be effective in making a change. So sometimes, sometimes parents, they don't see. I was able to see those flaws. So I'm thankful. And that's why I believe that I'm an amazing mother, because I'm not
Yes.
perfect. My children are flawed, but I have the tools and the resources at my disposal to
Amen.
make it better.
Yes.
Constantly changing my schedule. Every time I'm faced with a problem, having a solution, being creative in those solutions. So first and foremost,
Yes.
I'm an amazing mother.
There
To
you
answer.
go. I love it. I love it. You see how a mindset shift she started with?
Yes,
I'm a mother. No, 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 no. I'm an amazing mother.
amazing
That's
mother.
right. And you
Okay.
do need to tell yourself that even on the days where you forget to pack a lunch. I remember there
Yeah.
was one day my kid had a trip and I forgot to get the lunch. But guess what? He ended up with a lunch because I made
Yes.
my way over to the school with the bag lunch, handing it to
Mhm.
the security guard, like, can you get this to him, please? you
And he
know?
was
So we
excited to
have
get
to
that
pat
delivery.
ourselves on the back, right? We got to give ourselves
Yes.
credit and we're amazing when we have it all together, and we're amazing even on those days where we don't have it all together, right? We're
Right.
still amazing. It doesn't take away from
Mhm.
who we are. So I love that response. Who else are you?
So the next thing, I'm a boss, and I'm going to tell you,
Oh,
okay, about this
love it.
journey.
Come on, Miss Boss Lady.
So I started a business in my mother's basement. Ness Behavior Consulting was the first journey for me. Ness Behavior is the for profit. So I started as a behavior consultant on Long Island for other agencies like Ness, who provided services, whether it was through the child's insurance because they had a primary diagnosis of autism, or through they had contracts with the school. So I was a technician who worked for these agencies primarily in the school system, whether I was doing cases in schools or going to children's home after school. But one of the things that I loved doing was training. I love to go into schools and train special education teachers and put programs in place. And a lot of times I was thrown into positions and I just had to figure it out. And that in itself is a skill. Like they gave you no resources, you just had to make it happen. My last job was actually in Freeport, New York, and this particular school that I was in wanted to create a special education classroom in the public school system, like
Okay.
in the public school, which is not traditional because typically they would take children out of the district and place them into other specialized schools. But a lot of schools in Long Island want to keep their kids in District 1 because it's great for the budget, right? And it's nice to have an inclusive, all-inclusive setting, but it's a lot of work. So I learned very quickly that just because you have a special education degree does not mean that you know how to deal with special behavioral needs or children, right? So
True.
that's where
True.
behavior consultants come in with an ABA background. ABA stands for Applied Behavior Analysis. It's another sector of psychology. We're literally studying behavior. So we go in and we individualize programs for kids, create an environment that is more conducive for them to learn.
Mm-hmm.
Because a lot of kids cannot learn by sitting at a desk. That's why you're having the behaviors, because you're asking a child to sit at a desk for hour to 30 minutes, and that's just not what they're going to do. So you got to use the environment to get another effect. Um,
Yes.
it was a really fun time, but it was also a really difficult case that I was on because public schools have a lot of restrictions. You have a lot of things with the teachers union that teachers want to do and that they don't want to do. So it's a lot of pushback. Which I respect completely. However, when you start to look at the dynamic of what the child needs, we got to really question, is this the best place for them then, right?
Right.
So in other districts too, I was able to sit in on meetings, whether it was, meetings, internal meetings, or meetings with the administration team and parents. And I would always find that what was very consistent in all different districts was that parents did not understand their role in their children's education. It was just
Wow.
very clear to me, like when you're in those IEP and those meetings, whether they call it CSC meetings, and with the administrators is going through the IEP. IEP means individual educational plan, which is a legally binding document that is telling you this is what the district is going to do for your child. Parents are not asking the right questions. So because you're not asking the right questions, you're not getting the right services. And then you're locked in,
Hmm.
and then you find yourself unsatisfied, pushing back with your district. And it was
Right.
really hard for me to sit down and observe a lot of the mishaps and not be able to say anything, not be able to do
Mm.
anything, because of how I was contracted in. So
Okay.
I wanted to start a company of my own. And I playfully told my supervisor at the time, I'm just going to do it. I'm just going to start my own agency. And she said, go ahead. And she gave me her credentials and I flew. We created this,
Right.
this, I don't even think she thought I was serious at the time.
Right. Right.
But I figured it out. I figured out the business side. How do I get this structure? And we did it. And then COVID
Yes.
happened, right? So then COVID happened. Schools are closed. So you're not getting any contracts with schools. And
Yeah.
then insurance is another way that you can be funded, but nobody wants you in their home. So that's not
Yeah.
happening. So in the midst of that is where the nonprofit came out of, because although schools are closed, nobody wants you in the home. Our kids still exist, right? Now they're being
Yes.
displaced. It's even worse. They're being displaced.
Yes.
They're not able to go into this classroom setting that people have spent. Our special educators have spent so much time making conducive for learning. They're at home now with mom and dad. And I
Yep.
think that parents now started to wake up and understand how important those IEPs
Yes.
targets are, how
Yes.
important the resources that they're getting from the school actually were, because you started to see this huge regression in
Yeah.
skills at home. Um, so I think the pandemic again really uncovered the system, really got people really looking at what is it that you actually need, how is this actually helping you, and how can you be a part of the solution.
Wow.
So at the time, I just, took all my little pennies and I created these COVID-19 care packages. And I started
Okay.
sending them out to all the kids that I used to work with. and in the package just had like mask and hand sanitizer and little sensory toys. And the feedback that I got was just amazing. I think my kids were really, really excited just to get something in the mail, right? That they weren't
Nice.
forgotten about. And then people just wanted more. So I started sending out these boxes every season, getting a little bit more creative with it. And my own issues sprouted about, right? So I said, you know what? I want to reach more than special education. I want to reach mental health as well. And I learned that I could be creative with a nonprofit, with my reach and what I wanted to do. So we currently have 3 programs under NessCares. One is we've changed the sensory box to the sensory bag program because it's more suitable and
Okay.
more versatile. We have a copay and hardship fund that our goal is to raise $100,000 for the year so that we can offer grants to families who have a hard time covering their copays, whether it's for mental or behavioral health
Wow.
services. Because another thing that we found is that people are not getting to the services because they don't know that it exists or they can't afford it, and that shouldn't
Mm-hmm.
be the reason why they're not getting help. The next
True.
thing we're doing is this is my long-term dream, is to create an environment for therapy that's fun. So we call it the ABA house, or the behavioral house, therapy house. We haven't confirmed a name yet, but the idea is to create a space where you can get all your therapies, whether it's for the child or the parent, because therapy, whether it's mental health or special education, you have to look at the family unit as a whole. You can't
True.
just serve the child and not
And
pay attention to the fact that mom is losing her mind, because when you
yep.
leave, nothing is being maintained.
Yep.
There are a lot of times where families, and I've seen it, you have children who have special needs and the parents don't know how to deal with it, so they divorce. And that has
Mm-hmm.
an impact on the child. Not
Yeah.
only does it have an impact on the child, just the whole family unit well-being as a whole is so important. And I think we miss that a lot of times, whether you're receiving traditional therapy and you're seeing a therapist once a week, and then you're not following through with any of the feedback that they're giving because you don't have a support system, or you have a child who has special needs and you're not equipped to understand the language that's being spoken to you. We're not going to see growth. You're going to be in therapy forever in the same space that you were when you started. So my goal is to look at the unit as a whole under the nonprofit.
I love
And
it.
be
So not only one business, but 2 businesses in the
yes.
midst of a pandemic. You certainly are a boss, Miss Lady. You certainly are. I love that. I love how you are continuously finding new and creative and innovative ideas to to help us, to help
Yes.
all of us, right? Those parents with children with special needs, people with mental health issues and struggles, because again, you've walked it. Not only did you learn it, you learned it in your education, in your professional
Mhm.
perspective, but you walked through it, right? So you
Yes.
literally put on the shoes and you've walked through it yourself personally. So what a blessing to be able to serve from that capacity, because like
Mm-hmm.
you said, not everybody can, right? You learn some stuff in school. Okay, you think it makes
How do you
you
apply
you can
it?
do this. Okay, go on with it. But it's when you actually live it and you walked it, where you walked it out, like you definitely gain a different perspective of it. So I love it. And now, so you're also taking these businesses, and yes, they're separate entities, but they
Mhm.
do go hand in hand.
Hand in hand.
And
And
we
that's
do
the
want
glory in
to make,
it.
yes, yes, we want people to make certain that they understand that that
Mhm.
it is a for profit, but there's also that give back to the community. And as with every nonprofit, we need help.
Right.
We need help. We need the support. We need to share the awareness of it. We need the funding, like, so people come
Mhm.
on. Like, so you're actually putting together an event. Tell us
Yes.
about this event and how people can support Nest Cares.
Yes. So this year of 2024, I plan to do more events because what I've noticed is that people get us confused. Like we have Ness Behavior Consulting and you have NessCares, and they think we're one umbrella, but we're not. So 2024, and we're going to kick off with the New Year Professionals panel on January 27th in Garden City. And I really want to create this platform where I can tell people about the resources that we're providing under NessCares. We put
Mhm.
together a panel of speakers, and you are one of them,
Yay.
who have both mental health and special education background, because we want to create a conversation.
Yes.
We want to create a conversation that it, again, going back to the whole unit. It literally goes hand in hand. So
Hmm.
you have parents that are coming in who really are coming in for the special education, but special education piece and the special education resource, but they never want to talk about the sleepless nights and the fact that they believe that they're failing, or how hard it is to hear your kids scream for 3 weeks before you see a change in behavior, and what that does to you and your family. And I think that's what makes us so impactful, is that vulnerability, that
Yes.
providing that space where, one, we can not only talk about it and you can understand that there are other people going through the same thing as you, but get to the resource. What are you
Yeah.
doing to get through? What did you do to help yourself, or avenues that you've taken? So that's really what we want to do at the professional panel, is begin to have that conversation, looking at it as a whole, of special education and mental health.
Wow, I love it. And it is so important. So, again, we're going to have the link to the event in description box. For those of you on my emailing list, you know you're going to get all of this good information, but we want you to purchase your tickets. We want
Yes,
you to come out to this event and support, right? So, even if you are, and we were talking about this, Desiree, before, that this is going to be like a networking event. So
yes,
it's
a
not
mixer.
like those boring, wonk kind of events. This is gonna be I think of it like you and your girlfriends hanging
Yes.
out at the social, and your professional
Mhm.
women, and your networking, and you're connecting, and the place is real she very
Yes,
Instagram worthy for pictures. Like,
yes.
so this is for all of my content creators. This is the place
Mhm.
that you want to be, because not only do you want to network and connect with like-minded professional women and men, if they're coming out, not only do
Yes.
you want to connect into that space, but you also want to be seen giving. Am I the only one,
Yes.
right? People love that nowadays. They got the camera on, and
Mhm.
they're feeding the homeless, and they got the camera all on because they want
Mhm.
people to see them giving. Well, what better place to come
To
so
give
that people
back.
can see you giving, and you're giving to such a great cause, supporting special education, mental health. It's
Mhm.
gonna be a time. We're gonna have us a time. So, and the
Yes.
tickets are not
Are so reasonable.
expensive at all.
They
They
are
are
so reasonably
very,
priced.
very reasonably
And
priced.
they're so
But
reasonably priced because we want to see
yes,
people come out. We do. And I
yes,
have this thing about me where I like to give everything away all the time.
yes,
So I'm learning that sometimes we need community, right? You
yes.
cannot, one individual cannot be the only giver. And there's
No.
so many ways to give. There's sharing your
Yes,
stories is a way to give, because you don't know how impactful it is to just share your share your, when you're sharing your story, you're giving a testimony that is
mhm,
going to change somebody else's life. So
absolutely.
just being present at the panel to take part in conversation is also an
Mhm.
extreme way to give back. You don't know who you're going to bump into. That's one.
It's true.
Two,
It's true.
yes, yes, and
Yep.
everything that every monetary funds that we receive go straight to our mission. We
I
are
love
not putting any money towards anyone's salary at this point. We are an infancy nonprofit, so everything that we receive goes directly to our impact. So if you're
it.
looking to
Nice.
give to a nonprofit who really is using funds to give back to the community, get to know who we are at NessCares.
I love it. This is why I had to have you on here, because
Yes.
I know you are doing such a great work. I'm a big supporter of yours,
Thank
and
you.
I want people to know more about Ness Care and Ness Behavioral Consulting. I want people to understand what it is that you do, because it's always these silent heroes, right? It's always the silent heroes who are struggling, and there's no need for us to struggle. We have to support and help one another. And even if you are not able to attend the event, get a ticket for somebody who can.
Yes.
Get
And
a
spread the
ticket,
word.
donate it. Yeah, spread the
Spread the
word,
word.
share this
Mhm,
message so that people will understand about NessCares and what
mhm.
the great impact. If you know anybody who has children, doesn't know matter if you know if they're special needs or not. They got children, right? They got
Yes.
children. Send them this message so that they get this information. And I love to say that not everybody gets saved at the altar.
Right.
Sometimes it's sitting on the pews when God starts speaking to you. So being in the room, having a one-on-one conversation, a sidebar conversation with somebody,
Mhm.
you never know what kind of impact you can make. There might be a single mom there who this is her
Right.
first day away from the kids in so
Right.
long, and having
Exactly.
conversations. It just might be everything that she needs to keep
Mhm.
going. So we want to make certain that we're spreading the message, that people are understanding. Desiree, we got your social media handles. What's your favorite platform to be on? Where is it that you like to go, social
So
media wise?
I like Instagram because it's fun.
Yes,
So you can definitely find me on Instagram, but I am on LinkedIn. I am on Facebook. And I'm active on these platforms as well. So I see that you have my personal platforms here that will also
yes,
lead you to the business platforms as well. So I have a team here for under Ness who are really, really serious about reaching out and being visible on social media. Even Google, you
okay.
can Google us as well. To really get to know who we are. Like we are a small agency. We launched 5 years ago now, but we're growing and we have big plans. We have big
I
plans here.
love it. I love it. So everyone make certain you get all of the information. Like I said, if you can't jot it down now, it's in the description box. And for those of you on my emailing list, you're going to get it into your email. Desiree, before we let you go, do you have any parting words that you would love to share to encourage someone who might be struggling right now? What would you
Don't
say
give
to
up.
them?
Don't give up.
Mhm.
One thing that I've learned is that um, God is most present and strong when we are weak. And
Yes.
what does that mean? So I talked a lot about being vulnerable. When you're vulnerable, you're at a space where you let go. You don't care anymore. We call it rock bottom.
Mhm.
That's when you can really let whoever, whether you call it God or the universe, the head of your life, whatever that entity may be. Um, being vulnerable and open and not giving up and stay faithful, stay encouraged. Those
Mhm.
are really, really my parting words. I think that the enemy wants to take us out, and sometimes that may come in the form of a mental health crisis. Your mind is literally a battlefield, so take care of it.
Mhm. Mhm.
Everything starts in the mind. Everything that we want to be, who we think we are, the seeds are. It starts in your mind. So be
Yes.
careful what you feed yourself, and take care of yourself. Those are my
I
parting.
love it. I love it. Thank you so much. Desiree, hang out just for a second. Let me get the people their marching orders. This was
Yes.
good, good stuff. Listen, everyone, that was super important. I need you to make certain that you are sharing this message out, that you are subscribing, you're sharing, you're telling another friend about this information because you never know who's struggling. Because everybody who's struggling is not going to put it out on Front Street to say, hey, I'm struggling. So you want to share it just in case so that the right person can get the information. Make certain you check out Desirie Sykes and NessCare, her organization. Please make certain you support any way that you can because we understand that, sharing is caring and nonprofits need our support. So until next time, you all have a great week and we'll see you again on the next segment. Take care.